Good morning, guys. I'll be starting here shortly. Hope everybody's having a great day today. Hey, what's up, Ryan?
Good morning. How's it going?
Good, man. Just working on also setting up a YouTube stream here as well. See how this works out. I don't know that I would start, if I'm being honest with you. Uh, yeah. What's up, Travis? Just taking a look at where we are here in outer space. So we had unemployment and JOLTS is at 10. Feels like it wants to go lower just looking at this because anytime that we lose that previous day's VWAP, I'm always looking, or at least thinking, right, that it wants to go lower because it's not proving that it can hold above that previous day's VWAP. And here, right here, we had a nice uh, rejection from that previous day's VWAP, and then it did not hold. It did not hold this area, so looks like it wants to go lower. There's other previous days VWAPs that are stacked up, but I don't personally like when they're. I kind of just consider it to be like a zone, but once they've oh, come on. Once they've been passed through a few times, like this section right here, I just don't put as much weight on them. Um, so just kind of how I look at it. I like to trade them if they're naked. They haven't been touched yet. How's everybody doing this morning? Hey, what's up, Chip? I'm doing very well. I just realized that my Bluetooth's not connected, so let me do that real quick. All right, there we go. So it looks like it's wanting to go lower. I've got some levels plotted out here. Uh, we'll just see where it falls to. I'm gonna be able to stay on for about an hour, then I'm gonna have to bounce out. Yesterday was an interesting day because um, just looking at my stats and stuff for Delta, it went outside of like the normal distribution of as far as CVDs go. Usually, most days are not going to go below like 4K, 4.5K. But yesterday I actually got down to negative 6,000. So that's like in the, let's see, 70. So that's like in the, I don't know, 80th percentile or so of days. They will drop lower than that. But I felt pretty good about that 6K level yesterday. Again, the further that it drops, depending on the timing of it, right? Like yesterday, we ran into the MOC at 350, and so that's the thing that you're always looking at is how, can I get into this trade? I'm seeing a divergence in the order flow. Is there time for me to get out of this thing profitably? And sometimes there's just not. And so, but yesterday was a pretty strong, to me, pretty strong divergence. That's a whole lot of accumulation right there. Um, Anytime that price is rising like that again in the face of this selling pressure, they're using those limit orders to accumulate, and at some point they can't hide it anymore, and it pops. So let's see where we're at though. So we just hit. Sorry, Delta's already shown up as negative today. There's a couple of good looking shorts that could have been had right here. Like I said, when we dropped, you got big negative delta, struggles to break back through this. So we got positive delta coming up, kind of bumping its head, and price is dropping. So we got that divergence going this direction. Yeah, the trick is waiting and being patient enough in order to actually take advantage of it without getting yourself too far off size one way or the other. Travis, I got all your questions, man. Those are all great questions, and I get asked those frequently. So I will answer all of them for you in the feedback channel there. You guys let me know if it starts getting real laggy. I'm trying to stream to YouTube as well through OBS, so I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work out here. I'm gonna mark these previous VWAPs with dashes as well, so that way we know that they've been passed through. Yeah, I got you loud and clear. That's all right. Yeah, yeah. Um, Again, I got a lot of messages last night, folks trading, you know, just small accounts, right? And so I thought today that we would just really focus on helping them identify better setups. I've always kind of just thought of this as, I'm just going to show you guys how I trade, without realizing that there's a full spectrum of different traders and different traders' abilities and account sizes and things like that. And so which is good because it's forcing me to think like how would I take a brand new trader and articulate to him what it is that I'm looking for, and so that makes me better all the way around, and it's great, right? Like I'm improving, they're improving, and so the whole idea is for me is really just trying to show you guys how I look at CVD, right? Um, I'm not wrapped up so much in the horizontal levels. Like I've got these previous days VWAPs posted. They do not mean anything to me until I start seeing some kind of reaction, right? In the delta. I want to see an actual shift in the order flow. So um, I know that that's probably counterintuitive to what most people know or think about trading, and right? Everybody wants a horizontal level that they can just put their money on, and maybe there's some out there. I think that Jack's levels are probably the closest thing to that, but even with them, there's so much volatility, and it's again like to there's no level, and you guys know this, right? Like you guys have all traded. There's no horizontal level that you're going to put in your chart that every time you put it there or every time it's plotted there, to the tick, the market is going to stop there. There's always going to be whipsaw, pass through, whatever you want to call it, volatility around those areas. And so, um, yeah, and often I feel like if you're using just volume profile levels in themselves, they're pretty broad, right? They're very broad. It's not like it's like a pivot point or a previous day's VWAP where it's like, okay, this is kind of a line in the sand. Those, when I start looking at high volume nodes, low volume nodes, I really look at those as areas. Price will get into a high volume node and go from one edge to the other before it breaks out. And so, yeah, all great questions, all good questions. But I today I want to, and I'm not going to be able to be on here that long either. But again, just think about those guys that are starting a fresh account and how I would trade that fresh account versus how I'm trading my personal account. And yeah, so yeah, I'm gonna have to get some elevator music going or something. Let's see if I can pull up some lo-fi chill music here and get it in the background. Okay, looking at the stream here on YouTube. Looks all right. There's if you guys do visit the YouTube channel, there's a ton of old content on there. Everything from like my um moving average days. I really opened all of the videos up because again, Apex wanted to see more content, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna relist all of these, and but I'll probably have to go back through and curate them because a lot of them are not how I trade at all, and so I don't want to confuse people. So let's see here. I have no idea how to set this up for you guys to hear this. You can? Okay. Yeah, I don't want it to be too crazy. Not not trying to have a disco. Right. This I don't know if you guys have this news app, the GC news events. I included it in the chart book. Sometimes I used to use this thing all the time, but then like I said, it doesn't let you use OpenGL on your charts, and so I uh I stopped using it for a while, but I really like having it. It's very helpful. And then it'll plot like a little, I don't know, like a little red dot when there's a news event about to start up. So I like his news app stuff. One of the things that I get asked a lot too is whether I use session VWAP or uh, RTH VWAP. And honestly, there's just not a lot of difference between them because there's so much volume, from RTH that a lot of times it'll just catch right back up with session, and they'll be more or less kind of in unison. Almost they'll make like a little envelope a lot of times, kind of like this Like this is what happened yesterday. Let me slide back a little bit here. Come on. They make like this little envelope. So whichever one you prefer to use. And again, even the extensions themselves line up quite a bit. So I don't know, maybe there's something to be said, kind of treating this like a zone between the VWAP extensions. Usually I just keep the session on there. I mean, haven't like developed stats or anything on it because my focus is on the delta, but and I don't really take trades based on VWAP itself, the rolling VWAPs, unless it's like a weekly or a monthly. Like I'll definitely put more weight on those than I will the daily. Sorry, I'm trying to get this thing just a little bit lower. There we go. Perfect. You can see what other levels are below us here. I'm gonna go back up here to this zero line because that's where it's going to replot at. Some absorption taking place here. Let's see this again, negative delta in there. So basically what's every little bit of positive delta that's coming in is just enough to lift the price. All right, guys. Good luck today. Let me know if you guys have any questions or comments or oh, did it just jump all the way back to I feel like this VWAP is not displaying right here. Let me switch to this chart. So we've got a gap from yesterday's close right here. I'm gonna give this thing a little bit of time. Also, too, got to remember that the news is at 10, so I'm not going to get super married into any positions before that. See if we can get a push here to this 1K. And I like it that it's sweeping through all of this previous stuff. And then usually what I'll do is if it sweeps through it like that, you can either cut it or, cut the chart drawing off, whatever you want to do, just to so I'll either look for, a pullback to RTH neutral to short or depending on where it's at on the price chart, right? Maybe a bounce from the 1K. But right now it's kind of in floating here in no man's land. I feel like it's going to go lower, but it's just a matter of trying to get on board with it. Or maybe we'll get like a break of the 1K and then a retest of it from underneath or something. So it swept that low from yesterday, or I guess a couple days ago. A lot of volume traded above it, right, in this area. Okay. I think I'm going to try a micro short here. Little pullback in the delta, pulling back to this previous VWAP and current day's VWAP. In just one micro. See if it'll get some follow through here. I like taking that right there, that initial push, right? The deltas, again, talk about some confluence, but again, I'm not really looking at it like as a bias, but we're trading below yesterday's VWAP close. Delta's been negative all morning. We get a big push in Delta down. Yeah, it swept this low, but not like a super strong sweep. I feel like there's more downside to this. So if it comes up here to Delta neutral, might add into the short, but if it starts popping positive, then we'll have to get out of it. Excuse me. That's the thing is that price can travel a long way on its own with those limit orders behind it, and it just you kind of get a feel for how far away is price extending compared to the CVD. I like that this thing is in bright white, but so it's retesting VWAP here. Some buying, but nothing overwhelming. Let's see if the sellers come back in. I'll try to be really patient here and wait for it to get up here before we add into it. Okay. Add two here. Good about that. At the VWAPs above it. I'm gonna cut these old ones because they're a little bit cluttered. There we go. So we want to see some negative delta come in, see the seller step back up to the plate, push it back lower. And give it a little room here. But again, I'm trying to be mindful of folks with smaller accounts. It's always a little bit of a process to getting yourself in alignment with where these guys actually want to take it. So this is pretty normal, right? Kind of getting a feel for it. All right, so we've got a bunch of negative delta coming in now. Let's see if it continues to drop. So it hit that RTH low. I like that there was a strong delta push from RTH neutral, but it needs to start breaking through the 1K level. Hey GT, how are you, man? We also have the news event coming up, so we're not going to be able to hang out in this trade for too much longer. It may not. It may not break before the news. I'm gonna cover. I was hoping to get a little break there, and I could take one off of this. push down. Okay, that's good. I'm gonna cover one and one more. All right, so we're back to 1 micro. I don't mind holding this through the news one way or the other. Right now, it's, again, we're trading below the previous day's VWAP. Session delta is negative. Current RTH delta is negative. This is looking better to me, I guess, to go lower, but I'm always looking at the high for RTH and the low for RTH on delta. These are two important levels, and oftentimes you'll get kind of a retest of it and a divergence, and then I'm thinking later on in the day you'll get like a retest of it, of the high or the low, and then it'll bounce. I'll turn these off so the chart's not so busy. We know that there's a gap up here, so it could very likely fill that for sure. About 70% of gaps or so get filled each day. So we do have a divergence, nothing crazy. This is not uncommon, but we've got a divergence here at these lows, right? So you guys can see the absorption that's taking place. Price is higher, even though our delta is lower. A lot of times this type of divergence is called an exhaustion divergence. I'm sorry, absorption. But a lot of times it will it'll resolve itself, right? Price will push back down because there's so much aggression on the sell side, and it'll kind of balance out. Probably close this here because the news is coming up in about 10 minutes. I was kind of hoping for a push down to this 1K level, but we might not get it. Yeah, it's looking like it's wanting to kind of get some footing here and maybe go higher. You can see it better on the RTH chart that there is so we've got, right, absorption, just like we had yesterday going into MOC, where we've got Price is lifting even though there's aggressive selling. So all right, I'm gonna get out of this before the news. So we're up $71.50. And if you have a small account and that's what you're working with, hey, that's not bad. Not a bad way to start your day. This chart, this session chart here is a 30-second chart, and then this tactical chart is a 5-second. But this is the RTH chart here, so we'll probably stick with this one. Let's see. Let's see if the news flips things positive and we go back up, which is certainly a possibility. Um, did it tap into the monthly? Let's see here. Yeah, I got pretty close down to it. Hold on. Just realized something here. This chart was set to a volume-based rollover, and I need to set it for a date rollover because it's got the VWAPs on it. I was looking at that and I was like, that's a monthly, but it shouldn't be displaying right there because we're 9 days into the month, so it should be back. I don't want to give you guys inaccurate information here. I must have that thing mislabeled. 1 second. There we go. I have to make these bigger. I'm realizing that you can't see them on the stream, on the YouTube stream, so I use abbreviations for them, but I'm going to go back to just labeling them like this. That way folks can see them properly. Hey, what's up, Brent? How are you this morning? There we go. Maybe you guys can see that a little better. So it did tap into last week's VWAP, and we've got a rolling monthly right here. So these are two, again, strong areas of confluence for me, that it would bounce here. I might have gotten a little heavier. Let's see if it flips long. If it flips long, then we're definitely going to fill the gap and probably very likely go much higher. Let's get back to the tactical chart here. Just realized that that is not displaying right either. Looking like it's wanting to go up. Bunch of positive delta coming in. Noting a divergence here, right? This is absorption. Price is higher, so it's lifting on every little bit of positive delta that's coming in. Price is lifting. So let's see if we can get back above delta neutral and possibly get long here. All right, here comes the news. Let's see what it does. Have a little fake out there with price. Did get a little bounce off that 1K level after all. Yeah, I feel like we're gonna rally. I'm gonna try a micro here, long. and basically looking at all this delta that's coming in, right? We got positive delta. We know that there's a gap overhead. Um, there's this bit of divergence between price, right? Sellers have been aggressive, but price is still kind of lifting. So I feel good about trying a micro here. And if for some reason it blows out the bottom side, then we'll get out of it. Right, so I'm just marking the RTH low, RTH delta low. Um, this level right here, guys, is like a 500 level. So this is kind of an important level here in the delta chart. No, I don't put as much emphasis on it as I do the 1Ks though. Okay, more positive delta, that's good. I'm gonna add 1 micro onto that. So we're in 2, pop through delta neutral here, that's good. I just realized that I'm trading 2 full-size NQ contracts, so let me exit one of those. Again, this chart is not set for micros apparently, so let me just exit. I want to exit completely. That way I can, again, steer these guys right that are using using micros. Got kind of lucky on that, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Okay, it's going to recalculate. Sorry. All right, so now we're trading micros on this side. So I like the retest here of delta neutral. I'm going to buy 1 micro just based on that. Delta's breaking structure up, so to speak. Price is breaking structure up. We did tap this RTH high, so a lot of times this will be an area where there's some selling. I would not be surprised if our delta kind of comes back to this 500 level before rallying here. Having those full size contracts on, they could put us up over 1,000. So sorry guys. Again, I'm trying to um, tailor things a bit for the folks that are using smaller accounts this morning. more selling than we would like to see, right? Popped through, tapped into RTH high, tagged it, started selling off pretty hard. So, it's hard to choose exactly a direction where it's going to go from here. I feel like again, we know that there's a gap, but I try not to get fixated on that. I'm really just trying to focus on what the delta chart is telling me, right? We wanted to see buyers, the buyers that came in right here, wanted to see them, pull back, continue going higher. Didn't happen. So we're in a long trade that is not ideal. Thankfully, we're only down $40. So I feel like if it breaks this 1K level, we've got to get out of it for sure. And again, kind of go back on the hunt for shorts, but trying to give it some space. Again, I'm not worried about the VWAP so much and what they're doing. Again, these horizontal levels don't really mean a lot to me. I'm really looking at what's going on here. Where is the buying and the selling at? That's what I want to be in alignment with. Ton of volume below us. I think I'm going to switch this to a 30-second chart. You guys can see maybe not as much detail, but just putting the same VWAP studies on both charts. So okay, so we're breaking that. Let's see if it actually breaks here. Still have a fairly strong divergence here. So I'm not going to panic, right? Just because price hits that 1K level again, I'm not going to panic and just sell this. Again, because of that divergence, I know that there's buying that's happening under the hood, so to speak. And if price starts to make a new high here, then we will add. But if it starts to break VWAP, then we'll get out. I like it that it tapped into these, right? There's like a bundle of VWAPs here. Last week's VWAP swept a low. I honestly thought it was going to go lower, but again, that's the thing is we get wrapped up in what we think versus what the chart is actually telling us. So still below the previous day's VWAP. Welcome back, Jason. We were just talking about this divergence between price and delta. Oh, thank you. Beautiful wife just brought me a tea. Yeah, I'm done with it. Thank you. So sellers are still pushing it. They're still being aggressive. Just double check, make sure that there's not. Oh, the news app disappeared. It's looking like it might want to break down. They put enough pressure on it. Yep, I think so. All right, I'm going to try one micro short here. We're just going to go with this momentum, see what it does. Now, there's sometimes that you'll get like a major push in delta and price will just absorb it, especially with, excuse me, we have this divergence, but All you see is a green screen. Travis, can you see the stream all right? All right. Excuse me. All right. Yeah, if the, so we're retesting the 1K from underneath here. Let's see if it drops. Kind of an important part. It could just be a little bit of a fake out, and again, maybe there's so much absorption that it goes higher. All right, I'm gonna go until about 11, and then I'm gonna have to hop off. Definitely taking their time with it. Yeah. Yeah, in case you guys aren't tracking, FOMC's tomorrow, so yeah, tomorrow will be a busy day. ECI at 8:30 and then FOMC at 2. Nice. Right. 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 And I've realized that the more that, the more that you rush it, the more that you try to rush to a payout, the longer it takes you. Like it's totally counterintuitive. Um Yeah, my wife has told me that a dozen times, right? She was the one that was like, "Hey, the faster you try to do this, the longer it's going to take." And I was like, "Oh, okay, let me chill out." Nice. Yeah, yeah, right. I mean, that, it's again, there's always, I see this every day. Like, there's always, it takes, it takes a little bit, unless it's opening up, right? Okay, so let's face it. If we look at the strategic chart, right, like where we've been and where price is opening up at kind of each day, especially the last few days, we're basically like, it's in an uptrend, but it's still kind of rangy. And so what I like to do is have days like this, right, where it's dropped hard and you're opening up down by a quarterly VWAP, or it's dropped hard and there's a rolling monthly VWAP, or there was a quarterly trade that here's one from a weekly VWAP. This quarterly trade down here was a monster for me that day, because again, it fell so hard the day before. Everybody's panicking. Oh my gosh, like we're gonna drop back down to COVID levels, and then there's a quarterly VWAP right there, and then there's just massive accumulation. So that's the thing too. I mean, like RR is something to consider, and when you look at, like, for me, where I really excel at is catching these falling knives, because when you've got the super strong push down, the divergence between price and delta is much more obvious on these kinds of high volatility days, where it's going vertical, or dropping like a knife, versus what we've had the last few days, which has been really kind of, there's not a whole lot of momentum. And that is, Travis is right, like everybody knows that there's FOMC coming up tomorrow, and so they're all kind of positioning themselves in one way or the other. So these days are, I mean, I'm not saying that it's hard to trade. It's just that sometimes it's hard to really get yourself on the right side of things. At least for me, I kind of struggle with that a little bit. But that's where, just I lean on the order flow. Like right now, if it starts rallying up out of here, all I can do is again try to get in alignment with it, um, and just go from there. There's a bunch of divergence, so I know that there's buying that's taking place, and we've got aggressive selling that's not really effective. So that's something that you guys have to ask yourself, is we're seeing all this aggression on the tape, right? These aggressive market orders. They're trying to sell the market, but it's not effective. It's not working. So that tells you something. Um, we had a break of the 1K, tried to take a short. It does not appear to be working. I think you have to wait, give it some time and some space. We got lucky on this pop. You can't see it here, but we got, we just so happened to be into two minis. I thought it was micros because I hadn't switched the chart over, but um, yeah. So you're right, man. Like it's, you almost want to start with nothing, right? One micro, maybe two, maybe three. It just depends on your account size and your risk tolerance. Everybody's different. And then once you really get in alignment with it, and it starts really making new highs, retesting levels, and you just get some nice clean price action, then it's really just a matter of, getting a feel for the market. Um, so yeah, I agree. I think it's a smart play to just, take it easy. Uh, when would I consider a short invalid? That's a good question. Well, again, it's been choppy, right? We have FOMC tomorrow. So for me, if this thing at this point, right, like we're not that deep in the delta chart, we tried to initiate a short on this break. It didn't hold. Um, I mean, you could exit it now if you were on really tight risk, right? Because it popped back above the 1K. But, with this previous day's VWAP right here and kind of the selling pressure being negative all day, um, I want to see it break, right? We want to see it break new lows on the delta, but if it doesn't start and it starts to make new highs, you could get out. I mean, you guys see the price action, right? Like I said, when you've got actual volatility and it's going directional, then it's a much easier read. Um, we still one of the things that I look at, like it's doing it right now, but these kind of prior swing points right here, right? It's starting to break above that. That's probably a time that you'd want to exit. Looks like it's wanting to go back up and fill this gap, so I'm gonna give it some room here. I exited that, right, because it is making new highs on the delta, which in hindsight, I mean, I like to let this kind of area play out. I was kind of hoping for a bigger break, but given that it's already kind of swept this and it's the previous week's VWAP right here, again, I try not to get married to these levels when I'm in the trade. I'm really watching the delta. Um, we do have this large divergence, so there's definitely buying. I was just curious if the sellers were actually going to push it lower, and they're not doing it in a convincing way yet. So if we get if we pop above delta neutral, start popping above this previous day's VWAP, then we might try to get long with it again. But yeah, there's a ton of buying going on. It's just not aggressive in nature. Something that I was explaining to Chip too last week. If we look at the relationship between where price is at and where delta's at, you guys, this is kind of another way that you can confirm it. Price is about to make a new high. And if you look at the same swing point on our delta chart, right, it's nowhere near it. So that's that limit order absorption that's taking place through here. You guys can see though that when we do get negative delta, that price does, it's kind of dropping with it. So they're still trying to sell it pretty hard, but I don't know that they're going to be able to overcome these limit order buyers. Just play the waiting game until it really shows us where it wants to go. Sorry if you guys are hearing me chew that ice. Something that I'm watching for is just to see if price gets up here to this swing before Delta does. It might be just enough for the buyers to finally kind of overpower them and go higher. Or the sellers again really reinitiate and start selling it very aggressively. They can kind of break the backs of these passive buyers and it drops. So you can see price is so what will happen is that if it starts to break through this, then you'll see a flash of, new buying coming in, right? We'll get positive, which is I think likely, but not enough for me to reinitiate a new long, but I want you guys to see that. Right, so that's that limit order buying starting to come in alignment with this positive delta. And if it breaks, right, breaks up, we break RTH high on delta, we break above delta neutral, then we would look for a pullback, right? So you want to see some conviction from one party or the other. Okay, so that's good. Let's see if we get the follow through. Might put on a micro here.
See if it'll push up through delta neutral and keep going. Big old divergence.
So it's going to be a key point for us, right? Major inflection point here as it comes up to neutral and really RTH high. Like this is going to be the reaction that happens here is going to be very telling. It probably will not hit this, I would imagine, until it gets up to the gap, if it goes up there and fills it. So that push down in the delta is probably sell stops. Could also be newly initiated aggressive sellers now that it's tapped into the previous day's VWAP. But still hasn't filled the gap. It starts breaking this, then they're probably going to really start hammering the sell side. So this is going to be nothing like buying the top and then them proving you wrong. Probably should have waited until we got some kind of confirmation, Delta actually flipping positive, but you just don't know what you don't know. So it's hitting the 1K again. I would not DCA back down into this personally. It's just not strong enough of a level. It could easily pop through this, and if it pops through this, then this thing could go all the way back down to the lows, right? Because, yeah, we have divergence, right? We see price lifting, but there could just be so much aggressive selling that it just sells off, right? Never actually fills the gap. That's the thing, is that everybody's looking at the gap like, oh, it's going to fill the gap. Doesn't have to fill the gap, doesn't have to do anything. The buyers really did not step in up there, excuse me, the way that we wanted. So if it starts breaking through this, we'll get out, recalibrate, maybe catch a bounce from the 2K level here. but I don't want to again would not DCA into this. It's just not a powerful enough move for me to really be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna, average down into one contract right here. Um, when you've got all of this kind of liquidity, you got a low, didn't really get a real strong sweep of that. So I would lean on this RTH low normally, but again, given kind of the context of things and where we're at with this previous day's VWAP overhead, and just not feeling super strong about this holding. And we might get jerked around all day just because, like Travis said, it's with FOMC tomorrow. These guys are not really adjusting their positions much. I don't think they're not showing a lot of conviction one way or the other. This is the kind of stuff that, like I mentioned to you guys yesterday, if you've got a small account, you know, just scalping these 1K levels when you get pullbacks to them, I think is a smart play. Again, excuse me, we can't sit here and try to predict, price movements like this. Whoops. Come on. I'm trying to pull up an ellipse here for you guys. It's the shortcut again. Control Alt F. Couple nice bounces from there. This one not so much. But all right, let's see what it does. See if they're gonna. If it does flip to delta neutral and start going, I think it'll be a pretty strong push up because it only got down to negative 1K RTH, right? So it's not a heavy aggressive push down in the delta. We see that with this kind of absorption buying that's taking place here. And if it starts to they really start to get in alignment with each other, I think it'll rally pretty hard. Tough trading day, really, because, like I said, it's just kind of a little bit of a chop fest right now. There's a lot of folks that won't trade, unless there's a red folder news event, or I saw PAX say something about not trading yesterday because there was no news. The thing is that, we had a red folder news event. This is the kind of day we get today. Yesterday was a much better trading day, at least in the morning, I think. And there was no news. So I basically just, I don't have a bias in that regard. I come to the market each morning, right? I do, um, not a lot of pre-market trading, but I do some pre-market trading, and you don't know what it's going to give you each day. And I think just by saying I'm not going to trade on no news days, or I'm not going to trade unless there's a red folder event, or I'm not going to trade Fridays, or I'm not going to trade the first day of the week. Like, I don't know. For us, we're trying to use this as, to supplement our income or replace our income. We have to come to the market every day with an open mind and just do your best. All right, let's see if we can get some fresh. So we're still in that long. We didn't exit right there because it didn't give us a clean break. I didn't exit the long because it didn't give us a clean break of the 1K level. Want to see this thing break through here, right? Back up through delta neutral and start to run. Working on some hotkeys over here. Just kind of waiting to see what it does. some reason when I draw a rectangle, it's only showing the line of the rectangle. It's not actually letting me draw it. What's going on here? Uh, should I be at 0? It's so when I draw it, so like I'm trying to draw it right now. Hold on, let me do it another part of the chart. I'm gonna do it down here in the CVD. So when I draw it, so like where my cursor is at, do you see it's popping up to the it's popping up to the left? It's popping up like right here, and it's not letting me draw the box. It's just it's almost like a vertical line. Yeah, it's not the extending. Oh, so okay, I can drag it to the left. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Maybe I've got it set backwards somehow. Label alignment, right. It's weird. It's when I draw it, so when I draw it, yeah, it appears over here at the beginning of the day at midnight. I can't drag it anywhere else until I deselect it. So odd. Any no, it does the same thing. Like it's popping up right there at midnight, and then I can click it and drag it and draw it. I've reset the tool in configs. Anyway, I was trying to draw a box for you guys, but whatever, man. It's fine. So we're getting a little pop here, and that's good. I don't know if it's gonna go a lot higher than this gap, just based on the day. Let me get rid of all these little boxes. I'll figure it out. I've been messing with that thing. It's been busted for a couple of weeks, apparently. So let's see if we're going to pop through. So I hope you guys can see, like there's you've got all this kind of limit order buying, the aggressive selling, right? The session was negative, and then RTH, we just didn't get a big push down in the delta down to like the 2K or 3K level. And now we're starting to get more buying coming in. I would not be surprised if it pops through this. And if it does, it could run. I want to see where it's at on the strategic here. It could run back up, fill the gap, and keep going. You just, right, like I want to sit here and say because FOMC is tomorrow, it won't do that, but you guys know, like, it could run all day, the rest of the day, and then tomorrow, right, with FOMC, it sells off. It's just, again, I try not to predict it and what it's going to do. All I can do is try to take good entries, manage my risk, and you know, do our best. Maybe I'm just not that great of a chartist that I can predict movements, and there's just so many nuances and variables to it. It's hard to say what it's going to do one day or the other. I'm gonna hold this for a minute or two longer here, and then I'm gonna have to go. I said 11, and it's 11:05. So if I don't start my honeydew list, it's not gonna get done. Only in one micro I would not add until it starts to get very convincing that it wants to keep going. I like it that again these limit orders, the buyers are pushing price up. Every little bit of positive delta that's coming in is really lifting price. I'll be right back. I'm gonna I kind of want to add here, but at the same time, I don't really have like a nice strong delta level to lean on. Like it's not like it's popped through neutral and pulled back to it, and then I've got kind of a nice confluence with, VWAP and all that. They're just kind of in thin air right here. It could it could absolutely just dump from here. So I like to see when it breaks below a 1K level, 2K, 3K, then reclaims that and reclaims another delta level, like to get a nice, pullback. A little more. Yeah, we had this buying, and it did bring it up some for sure. And then I know that there's a gap there, but again, just not a lot of like conviction to really add in. But I think that it would, it wouldn't necessarily be a bad idea. But again, I try to base everything off of what the delta chart's doing. See you, Ryan. Have a good day, man. Like I said, I won't be on tomorrow because we've got the Christmas party. I got to really prep for that, but I plan on being back on Thursday or Friday. It kind of stinks because tomorrow being FOMC, I really wanted to trade, but it's right in the middle of the party. So that's all right. Let's see what Friday looks like. So Thursday, unemployment at 8:30. And then Friday, no red folder events. So Thursday and Friday, I think will be good days. Yeah, as soon as I leave, it'll pop through delta neutral and just start running. That's all right. All right, guys. So I hope you got something out today. We ended up about $1,000 because we got lucky on the one pop that we had down here when it broke back above the 1K and we went long. I didn't realize that I was long in with two full size contracts, and so it worked out. But if you were on micros, you probably could have made, I don't know, 200 to 300 bucks today. And again, that's, on a day like this when it's not very, uh, it's just kind of, I'm not going to say that it's choppy, but it's pretty choppy, right? Not, we're not getting nice big pushes up or down one way or the other we can play off of. So, all right, I won't be on tomorrow. So you guys have a good night. Travis, I'll get to your questions, brother. And y'all take it easy. All right, be safe. Don't blow out your accounts. See you. I just realized you guys didn't hear anything I said because I was still muted, but I was saying bye to Ryan, and then I was also going to say that I need to hop off. I will not be back on tomorrow because of the Christmas party. But then I was just looking at the events on the calendar, and Thursday has unemployment. Friday, no major news events. So, but I think Thursday and Friday will probably be decent days after the FOMC. And yeah, you guys play safe and don't blow out your accounts. And I'll plan on seeing you guys Thursday morning about 9 o'clock. Yeah. Thank you guys. Take care.